A contract worth just 5 new pence. Does this warrant the time of a High Court judge, counsel, and a jury? It does when the vendor has been treated for mental illness and the property is really worth £100,000. Was Eric Venables sane when he signed the contract? What is sanity?
So, members of the jury, it is on the face of it a simple question for you to decide. A contract for the sale of certain property was signed between a vendor, Mr. Eric Venables, and a purchaser, an old friend of Venables, the Reverend Charles Moon, the defendant. You must decide whether Venables knew what he was doing when he entered into that contract. Now, on a previous occasion, Mr. Venables had given away, apparently at random, at least £100,000, and as a result he was committed as insane to a mental hospital, and Mr. Moon, the defendant, knew this. Now, that first time, management of his financial affairs was taken from Venables and administered by a receiver appointed by the Court of Protection. And again, Mr. Moon, the defendant, knew this. And now, for a second time, another receiver has been appointed, in this instance, the official solicitor. Thus, the plaintiff, for whom I appear, is not Venables himself, since in law he is not responsible for his own financial affairs. The plaintiff is the Crown's official solicitor, who, acting on behalf of the Venables property and estate, seeks a declaration that the contract is void. So, Mrs. Venables, your husband's first breakdown was in February 1972.
Yes.
Now, at the time of this first breakdown, did your husband give away any money or property?
He sold up everything except the farms and the house, and secretly turned it all into cash.
How much money was involved?
Oh, we never traced it all, but it was well over 120,000, and he got rid of it in just 7 weeks.
He spent £120,000 in 7 weeks. On what?
Well, he gave away about 30,000 in the village, just bundles of notes to anyone. Then he went to London, where we know he bought a cafe for a waiter he met. He gave £5,000 to a girl he picked up. He said he dropped money through letterboxes, stuffed £500 a time into church poor boxes. It took us 7 weeks to find him. We never found most of the money, and what we did find, we couldn't get back.
And as a result of this, did your husband receive medical treatment?
He was committed, yes, of course. The Court of Protection took over what money and possessions were left to us and made me receiver to manage them.
My lord, the case on the pleadings is that Mr. Venables was suffering from such mental disorder as rendered him incapable of entering into the contract at the time of signing, but only at that time. Well, all this evidence as to previous states of mind is surely irrelevant to this much later act.
Mr. Lotterby.
In my submission, my lord, it is strictly irrelevant. I am not here to prove an isolated moment of mental disorder in a previously normal life. This was the recurrence of a long-standing mental disorder for which the patient had been committed to an institution and treated.
My lord, I do not accept that Mr. Venables has ever been mentally disordered or that he was rightly committed. And accordingly, if my learned friend pursues this line, I shall call evidence to show that Mr. Venables never has been insane.
Yes, well, so be it. Where it shows a pattern, Venables' state of mind at other dates is relevant.
My lord.
I'm obliged, my lord. Mrs. Venables, after your husband had given away this £120,000, he was committed in March 1972.
Yes. In March 1973, he was released and immediately applied to get back the right to manage his own affairs. We lived quietly for more than a year. Then in June 1974, he sold the house, everything that was left, over my head without telling Peter or myself.
Peter?
My son.
Yes. Your husband sold everything that was left, the house, the farms, the land. Has your family any other source of income?
No.
Mrs. Venables, how did your husband behave during that first breakdown in 1972?
Oh, I hardly know where to begin. I mean, from a comfortable life with a sane, happy man to seeing him in the most awful pain, destroying everything.
Awful pain?
there aren't any words. I mean, if you break your leg, it hurts. You know that pain. I could have helped him. But he said he felt everybody's pain, the pain of all the world, inside his head. He saw God or the devil in everything. It sounds mad, just saying it. He wouldn't sleep in bed because he said the blankets took on the shapes of hell. He used to talk to the lights in the drawing room, the trees, the animals, as if they were people. He said he thought that things, everything, was alive. Good or evil spirits.
Would you say that your husband is preoccupied with religion?
Oh, yes. Yes, he believes he's had, I don't know the correct word for it, a religious conversion. After the pain, he went into his first manic phase. He said he thought he was like God, immortal, that he could do anything. It's a classic symptom, I'm told. He said he was at the center of the universe, something unique, that he could do anything, take any risks.
Even to placing himself in penury?
Oh, yes, that's all part of it. It doesn't matter if he gives everything away, because something better will magically happen for him. When I tried to point out that this just wasn't true, he would get very angry. Well, it had no logic.
By now, I suppose you've become familiar with all these symptoms.
Yes, I have.
How recently have you observed them in your husband?
Oh, I don't think he was ever cured, whatever Dr. McGill said when he was released. He changed, and he's never changed back to what he was before. I mean, look at him, smiling. Smiling as if he's some sort of saint and I'm just a fool. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. I'm trying to be matter-of-fact. But, my dear, you are ill. And, oh, this is awful for him. Does he have to sit here and hear me call him mad?
It's at his own choice, Mrs. Venables. Until he's called, he can sit where he likes.
Mrs. Venables, you were telling us about your husband's behavior.
Yes. Well, he can talk. He can talk the hind leg off a donkey and sound perfectly sane and reasonable, but I nursed him for weeks when he first came out of hospital. And it is still there, underneath. Always.
Now, at the time your husband sold the last of the property, was he living with you?
No. He was not living with me. He'd moved away. He lived alone in a room. He'd taken a job as a night watchman. It was another of his friend's ideas.
His friend?
Mr. Moon. The Reverend Mr. Moon.
Are you saying that Mr. Moon has had an influence over your husband?
Oh, perhaps my husband would have had a breakdown with or without Mr. Moon. But I know damned well it wouldn't have been this religious mania. Eric could never have thought of giving away the house on his own. He wouldn't have left me.
Did you ever hear Mr. Moon discuss with your husband's property?
I heard a dozen conversations that trailed off as soon as I came into the room. Just before my husband's first breakdown, I heard Mr. Moon say, if possessions are such a burden to you, give everything away.
Give everything away? You're sure of that?
Yes, I'm sure.
Now, how soon after the sale of the property did you see your husband again?
Oh, the same day. As soon as I heard, I went straight round.
And how was he then?
Holy.
Holy?
Saintly, full of the Bible. When I said, my God, Eric, what have you done to us now? He just smiled sweetly.
Smiled sweetly at the prospect of you homeless and penniless.
Oh, dear me. Oh, you're leading, Mr. Lonnen. Mr. Golding!
Yes, indeed, my lord. Thank you. If I may say, my lord, I'm sitting here most unhappy about this whole testimony.
Oh?
Well, my learned friend is counsel for the plaintiff, Mr. Venables himself indirectly, and yet here is his wife making it sound more and more as if Mr. Venables himself was somehow on trial.
Oh, it cannot be otherwise, Mr. Golding. I mean, Mr. Venables' state of mind is at issue here. He is in no way on trial, members of the jury. But we cannot do without this evidence.
Indeed, my lord.
Yes, I'm obliged, my lord. You say your husband smiled sweetly?
Yes. I said, why? You've sold our home now, why? And Eric said, Mary, you mustn't be afraid. Security, possessions, things, it's all fear. You can't grow if you're afraid. You won't starve. I'm not starving. You won't starve.
But you never heard Mr. Moon suggest in any way that your husband should give the property to him?
Not directly, no.
No. Now, Mrs. Venables, Mr. Moon told you, did he not, that you would always have a home in the house, regardless of what happened to it?
A room in my own home. I mean, look, I married, kept house, loved my husband, all the things a wife does, expecting a normal, ordinary life. For both of us.
Yes, but it was never your house, was it, Mrs. Venables? In law, it is your husband's house, and he had a perfect right to sell it.
But surely one would expect to make those sort of decisions together.
But legally, he has the right to sell his own house to Mr. Moon if he so wishes. And you do know that Mr. Moon's plans for your husband's house were to allow 27 old and sick people to live there, self-supporting from the produce of the farms.
I doubt it.
Really? Oh, well, let's say 25 people then. Still very many more than if you kept it just for yourself. Now, Mr. Moon's offer contained the suggestion that you might like to help with this old people's care, but it was never a condition now, was it?
Look, this is our family home you're talking about. Well, I'm sure most people could squeeze old people into their homes. Do you?
Mrs. Venables, do you accept the right of a sane man to do whatever he wishes with his own property?
A sane man? Yes, of course, but this is just...
Thank you, Mrs. Venables.
Now, while copies are being circulated to the jury, Mr. Murray, will you tell us if that is the original of the contract which you drew up?
Yes, sir, it is.
It's a standard contract, my lord, with nothing unusual about it, except perhaps the amount to be paid, 5 pence. It's an agreed document and should, I think, be marked Exhibit 1.
Mr. Golding?
Yes, my lord.
Yes, very well.
Now, Mr. Murray, you prepared this contract as Mr. Venables' solicitor.
My client was Mr. Venables, but as the Reverend Moon was not legally represented, in a sense, I was advising both parties.
Well, that is hardly the usual practice, is it?
No, sir, but it was obviously a friendly transaction, and Mr. Moon said he'd no need of a lawyer.
Did he indeed? Had you handled legal matters for Mr. Venables before?
No, sir.
Or for Mr. Moon?
No.
I see Mr. Venables approached you out of the blue, then.
Yes, sir, saying that he wished to make a gift of property to the Reverend Moon. And I advised that it might simplify matters legally if it took the form of a sale for a nominal sum of money.
Yes, but this property was valued at least £100,000. Who was it who suggested that 5 pence should be the actual price?
I acted in perfectly good faith.
Oh, no one is suggesting that you did not, Mr. Murray, but this must have seemed, well, at least an unusual transaction.
But not unique. People do make property over to relatives, friends, to charities. In this case, the two principals were obviously friends, and Mr. Moon runs the Moon Homes for the Sick, as you know.
How did you form the impression that Mr. Moon and Mr. Venables were obviously friends?
Well, I believe they said so. Old friends. And their behavior was friendly.
On Christian name terms?
Yes, indeed.
Now, this was an unusual transaction, so did you make any special inquiries?
Well, if you mean it from Mr. Venables' mental state, no, I did not. Nor do I with most of my clients. He held the deeds, clear title to the property, no mortgage, it was free and clear.
How many times did you see Mr. Venables?
3, including the 17th of June meeting.
How many times did you have the opportunity of observing Mr. Venables together with Mr. Moon?
Only once.
And was ever any mention made of the fact that Mr. Venables had had treatment for mental illness?
No, sir, none.
Nor that his affairs had previously been in the hands of a receiver appointed by the Court of Protection?
No, sir. They left me to find out. Later.
No mention was made of Mr. Venables' mental illness, not even by the Reverend Moon?
Oh, no, sir, certainly not by him.
You were left to find this out later. I see. Now, at the exchange of contracts meeting, who did most of the talking?
Well, I suppose I did.
Yes, of Moon and Venables, who did most of the talking?
Mr. Venables.
Very talkative, was he?
Quite.
More than average.
Yes.
To what did you attribute that?
That he was talkative.
No more than that?
Well, he had just made a very generous gift. Something worthwhile and important. He would be excited.
But did anything he said, any behaviour, make you wonder if there might be something unusual about his mental state?
No, sir.
No?
No. Oh, not then.
When, Mr. Murray?
Well, afterwards.
And what happened afterwards?
He danced a little dance. He hugged Mr. Moon and waltzed him round the office, laughing and shouting, "Charlie, I've done it, fooled the lot of them, now I'm free of it and safe."
Fooled the lot of them?
I wondered then.
Wondered what, Mr. Murray?
Well, I certainly wouldn't have acted for him if...
If what, Mr. Murray?
Well, if I thought that he wasn't all there, you know. So I said to Mr. Moon, "Are you quite sure about this? He is all right, is he?" And Mr. Moon said, "We're all happy, aren't we? I've got my home, you've got your fee, he's got his freedom and credit with his God. It's worked out even better than I hoped."
You're very sure of those words?
Oh, yes. My then secretary took notes of the whole meeting and read them back to me later.
So Mr. Moon said it's worked out even better than I hoped. What did you understand him to mean by that?
Well, that he'd planned the whole thing, that it was his scheme, his idea, that Mr. Venables should give him his property.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
There are other possible interpretations to those words, though, aren't there, Mr. Murray?
Well, are there?
Indeed. Mr. Moon's words were, "It's worked out even better than I hoped," weren't they? Not, "It's worked out even better than I planned."
Yes.
Yes, they might do no more than express his pleasure in an old and close friend having done something finally that he really wanted to do.
Yes, but an honest man might have warned me. After all, I'm no expert on mental states, and if I'd known what I know now, I certainly wouldn't have acted for him, would I?
And any doubts you had then, he came to you afterwards anyway?
Quite so.
Yes. Have you ever known anyone with mental problems, Mr. Murray?
Well, I suppose everybody has known somebody, a friend, and my mother had treatment.
Then you've indeed had some very close experience. Now, was anything at all ever said or done by Mr. Venables before or during the signing of that contract which made you wonder that if he might be mentally disturbed?
No, sir, nothing at all. Only afterwards.
Nothing at all. Oh, thank you, Mr. Murray.
He was just a bit round the twist.
Well, I'm afraid that's not for you to say, Mr. Venables.
Well, then I don't know what you want. If I'm not allowed to say whether I think he's a bit touched or not, what am I here for?
Simply to answer the questions put to you, Mr. Venables.
Well, yes, of course.
You see your father regularly?
Yes. My mother and he... I keep an eye on him. Someone has to. He's my father and he's been unwell.
Physically unwell?
No.
How regularly do you see him?
Oh, 2 or 3 times a week. He lives away from home now, in a room on his own. I visit him there mostly.
Have you always lived at home?
Mainly. I was away at agricultural college at the time of his first breakdown and only saw him weekends and vacations.
Now, have you seen your father in what your mother has described to us as elated and depressed states?
Yes.
Would you describe for the jury your father's behavior during a depressed state?
Yes. It half paralyzes him. He doesn't want to go anywhere, do anything. He sits looking at nothing. Can't even bring himself to look after the animals or do anything much.
How frequently is he depressed?
Well, we all get depressed, don't we? In my father, it's stronger than most.
Have you tried to talk to him while he's in this state?
Yes, it's not very easy. He gets very mixed up. Who people are, what things really are. He gets very scared. He sometimes thinks I'm Isaac.
Isaac?
Yes, you know, the chap in the Bible whose father Abraham was willing to sacrifice him to God.
Yes, what do you think was the significance of that he was somehow sacrificing you?
I don't know. Personally, I'd see my mother as more of a sacrifice, wouldn't you?
Is all this meant literally, do you think?
Yes, I think so. I think he believes we're all back in the Old Testament sometimes. It's very difficult to say. Look, I don't want to give the impression he walks around raving. He's a good man, a nice man, but not always normal.
No. Now, would you describe for the jury your father's behavior during an elated phase?
Oh, then there's no holding him. He's up and doing, not enough hours in the day. Full of great schemes and plans for the future, saving the world.
Oh, perhaps you could give us an example of one of these schemes.
Oh, yes. He had a legal one once, to sue God.
What?
A Muslim trust, Mr. Lodderby.
Really, Lord?
Yes.
Well, perhaps you could tell us about that, Mr. Venables.
Well, someone left some money, a lot of money, to God. It was a complicated legal thing. Well, Dad had a scheme to sue for an act of God and claim damages against that money. Where it's not too painful, when he's manic. My father's great fun, marvelous company.
To what extent would you say your father is preoccupied with religion?
Well, he believes he's had a religious conversion and that he can become a saint.
A living saint?
Yes. The Reverend Moon will be able to tell you more about that. He thinks that money, well, any kind of property, stands in the way of his spiritual development, and that he has to get rid of it all so that he can become holy. I am quoting him.
What is your father's relationship with Mr. Moon?
Old friends, and because he's a reverend, his religion, a sort of hero worship there, I suppose. When my father first got religious, sort of guru to novice, teacher to pupil, he admires Mr. Moon enormously.
To your knowledge, was Mr. Moon aware of your father's committal and treatment for mental illness?
Oh, yes. He knew all about that. He was seeing my father all the time, visiting him in hospital and so on.
Mr. Venables, are you fond of your father?
Yes.
Do you love him?
Yes.
And your mother?
Of course.
Which are you closer to?
Well, it's not been easy to get close to my father lately.
But you're very close to your mother.
Yes.
Yes. And if you should lose the farm, how would you live?
Well, get a job, managing someone else's farm, I suppose. Mr. Moon even suggested I could run our farm for him.
And how will your mother live?
I don't know.
And that worries you, does it?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Very much.
Now, you've painted a picture of your father with warmth and sympathy, which shows him to be sometimes elated, sometimes depressed, and sometimes, for long periods, quite ordinarily happy.
Yes, I suppose so.
Yes. Well, isn't that a picture which, with a little less colour, might be any one of us?
With a lot less colour.
And that is, of course, your opinion, Mr. Venables. Yes, thank you. You've been most helpful.
Do you wish to re-examine Mr. Lodderby?
No, my lord, thank you. I call Dr. Vincent Thompson.
Yes. Will his evidence belong?
Yes, my lord.
Oh, no. Well, I think we better hear from this gentleman tomorrow.
The case of the official solicitor against Moon will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court. Gentleman farmer Eric Venables has tried to give away all his property to the Reverend Moon and still wants to, although this would leave his family penniless. But Venables has had treatment for mental illness. Was he sane when he signed the contract, or is there another explanation entirely? A psychiatrist is giving evidence.
Dr. Thompson, what is your function as head of this new hospital?
Nowadays, much of my work is administrative and supervisory.
But you're a doctor of medicine and you are trained as a psychoanalyst.
Yes. Although a more accurate description of my work with patients today would be psychotherapist.
Would you explain the distinction, Doctor?
Well, literally, an analyst analyzes. That is to say, it may take years of regular and frequent sessions for the patient, bit by bit, to come to understand himself and his problems, and with certain aids from the analyst to effect a change in these and, hopefully, a cure. A psychotherapist, of course, works in the same areas, sometimes using similar methods, but also using other techniques as they may be appropriate, such as hypnosis, drugs, therapies of various kinds, and with a more active involvement between the patient and doctor. That's the grossest oversimplification.
And you are qualified in both of these techniques?
Yes, I am.
Now, before leaving to take up your new appointment, were you head of the Haslip Sanatorium, Fulchester?
I was.
Is that a hospital for the mentally sick?
Yes, it is.
And were you the head of that hospital on March the 30th, 1972?
Yes.
And on that day, did you examine Eric Roger Donald Venables?
Yes. He was an emergency patient admitted for observation on the recommendation of a single medical practitioner, his GP. By law, he had to be examined by another within 72 hours. My diagnosis concurred with that of the other doctor, so he was detained.
Do you know the whereabouts of that other doctor today?
Yes, he's followed the flood out of the health service and emigrated abroad.
Oh, I see. And what was your diagnosis, Doctor?
That Mr. Venables was suffering from manic depressive psychosis and in the manic phase of his cycle.
Can you explain that diagnosis in layman's terms, Doctor?
Manic depression is in common enough use, not to say overuse. It describes states of alternating periods of manic elation with phases of depression and with stable periods between the psychotic episodes or any mixture of these.
You've used the word psychosis, Doctor. Now, what's the difference between psychosis and neurosis?
Well, again, for the layman, I suppose the most striking difference is that while the neurotic may be made aware of his problems, the psychotic cannot. There are others.
Is it basically a question of delusion?
The psychotic can believe wholly unreal and impossible things, from such cliches as that he is Napoleon, or that Martians are talking to him, to harder to disprove delusions, such as that joke of Thurber's, whose maiden aunt believed that electric sockets without light bulbs in them leaked electricity. Its causes seem to be genetic or biochemical, and psychological factors only secondary triggering mechanisms.
Did you find Mr. Venables to be suffering from delusions?
Yes, I did. False beliefs, delusions common to the pattern, that he has been chosen by God for some special destiny, that nothing happens to him by chance, but all is sent by God for some high purpose, that the inanimate, such as buildings, rocks, earth, are alive, and the non-conscious, trees, plants, are conscious, and somehow in communication with him, and so on.
Now, following your first examination, was Mr. Venables detained as a patient?
Yes, for a year.
And after that year, was it you who was responsible for recommending his release?
No, it was not. I'd left the hospital before then.
Would you have made that recommendation to release him?
It's hard to say. You see, I was no longer treating the patient. It's unlikely.
Amongst Mr. Venables' delusions, did you diagnose any which related to money or property?
Oh, yes, all intricately interwoven.
What were they exactly?
Well, very complex because, and hard to describe too, you're asking me to put into words, to make sense of delusions which don't always have logical sense. Venables believed both, that he was a wealthy man as a reward by God for his special qualities, and that he must, by hook or by crook, get rid of that money so that he could progress spiritually. God would love him more if he was a poor man.
Doctor, from my small knowledge of your subject, it's true to say, isn't it, that there are some cases of psychosis which can't be cured?
Well, that's another oversimplification. We're learning new things every day.
But is there some truth in it?
Well, psychosis can be self-remitting. That is to say, it may clear itself up for no known reason. Different techniques have shown some results. Electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, for depressive states, for example. Drugs of various kinds can often contain the symptoms.
Well, let me ask you, would you have thought it possible that Mr. Venables might suddenly have been cured just a few weeks after you stopped treating him?
Well, possible, but Well, not likely. Improvement of symptoms doesn't necessarily mean a cure. No, in my experience, I'd have expected to find the cycle keep repeating itself in him.
Yes, in fact, did you have occasion to examine Mr. Venables as recently as last August?
Yes.
And did you find him cured?
I did not. He still has some delusions.
In your professional opinion, Doctor, would you think it possible that Mr. Venables was wholly sane at the time he signed this contract?
Possible, but was so unlikely I'm forced to say no. He could not have been sane.
Thank you, Doctor.
Are you familiar with the legal term a lucid interval, Doctor?
Yes, and that acts done within one are legally binding.
Yes. Even were we to accept your opinion of Mr. Venables' behavior and condition, during the stable phases of what you call manic depression, is not a patient lucid, by your own description?
I think Mr. Venables has held on to certain psychotic delusions, whatever his apparent condition, whatever his phase.
Doctor, can it really be true that there's no hope at all for the psychotic? I mean, very little is known about psychosis.
We're learning new things every day, biochemical.
Yes, it's also true, isn't it, of course, that within your profession, other men no less highly trained and qualified than you, believe other things. In fact, isn't it true that some other men would disagree wholly with almost all of your opinions?
Well, I see Dr. McGill in court. He certainly would.
You're familiar with Dr. McGill?
Well, familiar is not a word I would choose. We know each other.
Yes, well, we shall be hearing from Dr. McGill later. So within your field, there are very different schools of theory and belief. You holding one thing, another holding the other, but no one able to prove something to the other.
Where are we going?
Well, my lord, I'm trying to establish the areas of this witness's expertise. Well, for example, there would be very little use in asking a Newtonian physicist to explain Einstein's physics to us.
Oh, indeed. Well, I think we can take it, Mr. Golding, that Dr. Thompson would be familiar with the work, with the theories of others in his field.
Of course, my lord. Dr. Thompson, what causes manic depression?
There are theories, but I have to say it's not known for certain.
Then what is manic depression?
I believe I've already answered that. Alternating states of elation.
No, that isn't what I asked. You're describing its symptoms, how it shows itself, not what it is.
What is happiness? It exists, you can describe it, so does insanity.
But not in the real sense, understand it.
Perhaps.
Yes. In the present state of the art, then, psychiatry can offer us theories, but no real proofs.
It works.
Does it? Oh, even with neurosis, which you told us is treatable, isn't it true that figures show that as many neurotics are cured spontaneously, that is without treatment, as are cured by any of your expert therapists?
Yes, but they're old figures, and personally, I think they're suspect. Anyway, they're related only to psychoanalysis. We have other methods, other knowledge today.
But those figures suggest something very important, Doctor.
Do they? What?
That really very little is known or understood about the mind. And even less about what you call manic depression.
It is not what I call it. That is what it's called.
The examples you gave us, a man who thinks he's Napoleon or talks to Martians, even your Thurber joke. And incidentally, do you seriously believe that the woman who thought that electricity leaks out of unused sockets is actually psychotic?
Well, of course not literally. It was an attempt at a joke. And nevertheless, it is rooted in truth, psychologically.
Well, I might believe that I'll have bad luck if I walk under a ladder. Is that psychotic?
It's false to fact, anyway. Perhaps you're scraping the bottom of the barrel rather now.
Well, that certainly wasn't my intention. Yet the examples you gave us of Mr. Venables, that he feels God directs his life in some way, that all which exists is somehow alive and one. Now, these things have been believed by some very sane men, surely.
Sane men once believed the earth was flat.
You wouldn't compare the two.
Both are fallacies based on wrong and insufficient understanding.
Well, as a psychotherapist, what would you say about Mr. Venables' religious beliefs?
That we need not confuse them with his manic depressive illness.
That is your expert opinion, yes?
Yes.
And what is your field?
The mind.
Are you a religious man?
No.
Do you believe in God?
No.
You know God, no life force, no unifying principle of any kind?
I'm afraid not, no.
A flat no. Not even a maybe or an I don't know. You are certain there is no God.
It's my belief.
Which may be a false belief.
It may be.
And if it were, would that make you psychotic?
No, just very wrong.
Is all religious experience psychotic?
No,
Merely deluded?
in my opinion.
Your expert opinion?
No, I'm not an expert in that field.
Indeed. So, if you were to meet with a genuine religious in the course of your professional life, could you distinguish him from a lunatic?
Ah, that's a very interesting question.
Well, will you try to answer it?
Well, I'm bound to say that it would depend upon other factors, the depth of the belief and how much it interfered with the patient living an otherwise sane and balanced life. Religious mania is found, of course.
And so is religious conviction. And many people, even more expert, more sane and balanced, perhaps, than yourself.
Yes.
Yes, and perhaps you might not be able to distinguish between mania and conviction.
Again, I repeat, my diagnosis would have to depend upon other factors. In Mr. Venables' case, it is not sane, for example, to throw all your money away and leave your family penniless.
Is it not?
I think not.
Well, I can only say how fortunate were Christ, St. Peter, St. Paul, St. Francis, St. Teresa, Buddha. The list is endless, Doctor. How very fortunate were these great men and women never to have fallen into your expert hands. Thank you.
Doctor, when you last treated Mr. Venables last August, what was your diagnosis?
That the patient was suffering from manic depressive psychosis.
Now, at the time Mr. Venables signed this contract, what is your medical opinion as to the state of his mental health?
My medical opinion is that Mr. Venables could not have been sane when he signed this contract.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. You may leave the witness box.
That is the case for the plaintiff, my lord.
So in brief, Dr. McGill, we can say that you are at least as highly qualified as Dr. Thompson.
I suppose so. Most qualifications in the field are pretty meaningless anyway.
Oh? Then what are the causes of psychosis?
God knows. We know bits. Experts like Thompson will try to blind you with jargon. But the truth is, while we do know that there are biophysical, biochemical, and genetic factors, nobody yet knows what causes madness, or even if there is any such thing.
But there is such a thing in law.
Is there? I don't believe the law would know much about it.
Nevertheless, there are legal standards, Doctor. Now, in March 1973, were you appointed as director of the Haslip Sanatorium, Fulchester, the position previously held by Dr. Thompson?
Yes.
Did you examine Mr. Eric Venables, an inpatient?
Yes, several times.
Yes, and as a result of your examinations, did you arrange for Mr. Venables to be discharged?
Yes, I found no reason to detain him.
You found him cured, did you?
No, I found that he was not, and he never had been psychotic.
But do you mean that, in your opinion, Doctor, Mr. Venables has never been of unsound mind?
That's what I mean, yes.
In spite of the other doctors diagnosing his condition as manic depressive psychosis?
He is not a manic depressive.
Can you account for the difference in the diagnoses, Doctor?
Yes.
Well, would you, please?
Well, not briefly, not politely.
Well, take as long as you need, Doctor, but politely, please.
Well, first ask yourself, what's sanity? Is this a sane world? They lock up a man who thinks he's an atom bomb. They give state banquets to the man who walks around with a button to blow up the world. They are the witch doctors who decide these things. They believe the goal of psychotherapy is to adjust their patients to live in that world.
And isn't it?
Even Freud saw that society was repressive, said that within our society, natural and simple love between human beings was an impossibility. Well, repression is not just sexual. We repress real religion. We repress all transcendental experience.
Transcendental, you mean drugs?
No, I don't. I mean experience beyond the ordinary, beyond the senses and logic, beyond what we incredibly call reality. If you want an authority, what Jung called man's natural religious function.
Yes. In brief, then...
I said I couldn't be brief.
In brief, the point...
The point is that what happened to Mr. Venables was not madness, manic depressive psychosis, or whatever else needs a mumbo-jumbo term. What the man had was nothing more nor less than a good old-fashioned, overwhelming religious experience.
Yes, for the benefit of we who have perhaps not had such an experience...
Are you saying then, Doctor, that the signs of religious belief and the symptoms of madness are such that one might be mistaken for the other?
Well, I wouldn't mistake them. I do hope that you won't. But the witch doctors did.
Yes, you realize the implications, the possible implications for Dr. Thompson of what you are saying.
You mean an action against him for wrongful committal? I don't think it would have much chance. I mean, he's not alone in his opinions. The worlds of medicine and the law would just close ranks very smartly.
Yes, Dr. McGill, you may hold and express any views you wish about your own subject, but I won't allow any discourtesy towards this court.
If I was discourteous, I do apologize. I must tell the truth.
Indeed you must, yes, Mr. Golden.
My lord, you'll remember I'm counsel for the defendant, Doctor. Presumably you've known religious men.
Presumably I have.
But, well, I've known religious men, and I've never thought that they were manic depressives.
Well, we're talking about different things. Different aspects of the same thing, maybe. I'm talking about a real and deep, possibly sudden, certainly very painful, religious conversion, a man's finding of God within himself. Now, we can prove a person's need for religion, where that religion expresses the inmost man. It's a powerful need, as powerful as sex. Now, too few people get there. I haven't. I think Mr. Venables has. I wish I knew how.
Are you a Christian, Doctor?
No. I said the inmost man. The failure of Christianity is because it externalizes, projects good onto Christ and God and bad onto some distant devil. Now, externalize, project those feelings outwards as if they don't belong to you, and there's no inner correspondence, no reconciliation. Maybe you live an outwardly Christian life, but inside, the same old pagan devils.
Is Mr. Venables' new faith Christian?
Yeah, I'm not saying that Christianity can't accommodate the odd, truly religious man, just that it doesn't help much in getting there.
Now, may we come to specifics?
But I'm being specific. There are precedents enough, you know. I mean, St. Paul had his conversion. There are a number of neurotics, alcoholics, even psychotics, all sorts, cured by getting religion. Now, Mr. Venables is a sane man in a mad world, a good man. Perhaps a holy man who certainly never belonged in a mental hospital and who certainly knew better than you or I what he ought to do with his own money.
Doctor, all this religious theory of yours, does it have anything to do with sanity and the law?
Dear God. Did you never look up at the stars and wonder why you were so worried about your income tax?
Well, I never expected God to pay it for me, if that's what you mean. Perhaps we ought to hear exactly what you mean by God.
I don't see the point of the question.
Well, you say Mr. Venables was never psychotic, but got religion. I think we ought to know what you mean by religion.
Okay. I don't believe in the big daddy God of the sellers of guilt. He's the God that died. I do believe in a correspondence between all things.
What Jung called non-causal synchronicity.
Perhaps, very much more. But it has cause. Now, the cause is that the universe is conscious and has order. I believe it's possible to live in tune with that to one degree or another. I think Mr. Venables has made it through to there beyond ego.
Well, I'd have thought his actions were hardly beyond ego. Are there tests, practical psychological tests for diagnosing manic depressive psychosis?
Some.
Is it conceivable that doctors with the experience of Dr. Thompson, and he wasn't alone, was he, could be so wrong with those tests as to commit a perfectly sane man?
Yes, when the witch doctors deny the existence of anything outside their own dogmas.
Of the various schools of psychotherapy, Dr. Thompson is, I believe, a Freudian. Would I be correct in saying that you are more a follower of Jung?
Not entirely, no. Freudians have to cling to their dogmas. They won't allow themselves any other religion. Others just look for the truth, wherever and whatever.
You would disagree with much of Freudian theory, would you?
Well, Freud was the granddaddy of us all. He invented it. And he got an incredible amount of it right, too. Well, the Wright brothers invented the aeroplane, but we don't all still fly in the Kitty Hawk.
So you and Dr. Thompson believe some very different things.
Very different, yes.
When you took over Haslip from Dr. Thompson, when he moved on to a bigger hospital, were there any other patients there with whose diagnoses you disagreed?
I think I'm going to have to plead professional ethics here. I mean, this case is one thing, a man being ground to small pieces by the law. But I don't think that I can air other cases publicly. It wouldn't help this, and it won't help patients or families.
Yes, sir. I can direct the witness to answer, but unless it's crucial to your case, I think I would prefer to accept his view, Mr. Lonnen.
Yes, very well, my lord. No, Doctor, it was on the basis of your recommendation that Mr. Venables was released as sane.
He was always sane.
Were you always infallible, Doctor?
No doctor can be.
Dr. Thompson committed Venables after behaviour, wild spending and so on, which in his opinion was psychotic.
His opinion was wrong.
Was it? Aren't you at all surprised, Doctor, that that same behaviour is now repeating itself?
It is not psychotic behavior.
Is it not?
You are Charles Gordon Moon,
Yes,
the Reverend Charles Moon.
yes.
Yes. And before you took holy orders,
I was in the army, regular army, sir.
you resigned your commission with what rank?
Lieutenant Colonel.
So you are Colonel, the Reverend Charles Moon.
Lieutenant Colonel then, now plain Charlie Moon.
I see. And were you decorated for bravery in action during the last war?
Yes.
Which decoration?
MC, Croix de Guerre.
You won the Croix de Guerre,
Yes.
the highest award for bravery.
In France, yes.
When did you resign your commission, Mr. Moon?
1949,
And why did you resign it?
because I had come an active Christian.
Active as opposed to...
The accepting, COV, church bread on Sunday, unthinking kind.
Did you have what is being called a religious conversion?
Oh, yes. But hardly comparable with Eric Venables.
And you took holy orders?
It seemed a way to serve my country and in a better way than as a German killer. It's all a very long time ago.
Yes. Can you describe your conversion, the changes it made in you?
You make me sound like North Sea gas.
It's a serious question, Mr. Moon.
Yes. I'm not a mystical Christian. My faith is more ordinary, practical, down to earth. Eric's is rarer, finer.
Yes. But it led you to make some very dramatic changes in your life.
Well, after working in the church for some years, I found that I could make even better use of what small fame I had by raising money for charity. And with it, I started the first of the Moon homes for the sick.
And did these succeed?
Well, 18 years later, there are now 43 homes.
And Mr. Venables' intention is simply to make it 44.
The case of the official solicitor against Moon will be concluded tomorrow in the Crown Court. It's been said of Eric Venables, and by a psychiatrist, that he is a holy man. Other doctors have found him mad, committed him to a mental home as a manic depressive, incapable of managing his own affairs. Certainly, he now wants to give away his home and farm to the Reverend Moon and leave his wife penniless. Moon, war hero and founder of the Moon Homes for the Sick, is giving evidence.
So you were very old and good friends with Mr. Venables?
Oh, yes, over many years.
Yes. Now, I have to ask you this, Mr. Moon. Were you aware that Mr. Venables had been previously detained in a mental hospital and had had his affairs put into receivership?
Oh, yes. And I fought them both as well as I could at the time.
You fought on what grounds?
On the ground that I knew him as well as anyone and understood much of what he was suffering.
Yes. Now, what was he suffering?
Certainly not madness.
That is, of course, your opinion as a layman.
It is my certain conviction.
Mr. Moon, you are not...
No, qualified. I know my friend.
in this court.
And I am a Christian.
Just let me finish. I have no doubt that your counsel will give you every chance to say most of what you want to say, but all counsel and I are endeavouring to point out to members of the jury is that you have no medical expertise.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's get on.
Yes, my lord. So, Mr. Moon, you say you understood much of what Mr. Venables was suffering.
From his descriptions and from my own knowledge, what he was going through was a deep, personal, direct experience of God.
Yes. Have you had a religious experience like it?
Yes. And no. I can only answer that with old-fashioned words which sometimes embarrass people. At the moment, it's not very popular religion.
But it exists.
Oh, yes. And denying the need leaves what Julian Huxley calls a God-shaped blank in a man, which fills with superstition, fanatical politics, all the unhappiness.
Yes.
I'm not answering your question.
Well, but perhaps you are, Mr. Moon.
My faith is simple. It sustains me. I feel a certainty of God. I believe that through Christ I can come at last in heaven to know God. Now, Eric's faith is finer, rarer. I think he already walks with God. I can't put it any better. He lives with God within him.
You put it very well. And is this very painful for him to experience?
Well, how could it not be very painful? Everybody thinks you're mad. You can't be normal anyway. Normal is only half alive by comparison, I'd guess. You know, there are no words for this. Of course, there are compensations, stillness, joy, ecstasy, a fine white certainty, I suppose.
Pain and joy, depression, elation.
Yeah. Now you see it. But to someone with no experience, no understanding even of what is possible to an atheistic, logical psychiatrist, this must look very much like the symptoms of a manic depressive. I'm preaching rather. I stopped that 20 years ago.
Reverend, did you say to Mr. Venables, if possessions burden you so much, give everything away?
I don't remember the occasion that Mary Venables quoted, but I must have said something very much like it many times, yes.
Yes. And did you propose that Mr. Venables should give any of these possessions to you?
I don't think so, but, you know, I may have done.
Now, much has been made of the suggestion that this gift would leave Mrs. Venables homeless.
Yes, but that is not strictly true.
How is that?
Well, Mary is a dear, loyal wife, and it can't have been easy for her, but I suppose, like most women, she wants her own home to own it herself. Now, what I proposed was that she help us in the home. Be assistant matron, if she liked, but anyway, have a home with us for life. So what she means by homeless is simply owning her own home.
Exactly. And there is no question of her being homeless.
None.
Thank you. Now, will you cast your mind back, Mr. Moon, to the day the contract was signed, to the 17th of last June?
Yes.
Yes. Now, while you were with him, how did Mr. Venables behave?
Oh, very happily.
Why happily?
Because he was doing something that he'd wanted to do for a long time. As soon as the contract was signed, he danced me around the office, laughing.
Yes. The solicitor, Mr. Murray, claims he said to you, "Are you quite right, is he?" And that you replied, "We're all happy, aren't we? I get another home, you get your fee, he gets freedom with his God it's worked out even better than I hoped.
Yes.
Now, did their conversation take place in those words?
Well, I can't swear for the words, but yes, it did.
He's all right, is he? Now, what did you understand Mr. Murray to mean by that?
Well, that Eric had behaved wildly enough for it to be remarkable.
Wildly?
Well, I don't suppose most people dance in a solicitor's office. Eric had just given away a fortune and he was acting as though he'd won the pulls. Mr. Murray must have thought that odd. It was odd.
We're all happy, aren't we? I get another home, you get your fee. Well, that means what it says. But he gets freedom and credit with his God.
That is literally true, too, yes. Freedom.
Well, it might be made to sound slightly cynical on your part.
Well, I suppose it might, but it wasn't. Mary has tried very hard. But she just can't understand what has happened.
His God?
The one God. His. In the way that Jesus speaks of his Father. There's nothing sinister in any of it.
It's worked out even better than I hoped.
Well, it had. Eric had got what he wanted, freedom to live in the way that he wanted to live. No one was hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Moon.
No one was hurt. No one except Mrs. Venables and her son.
No, Peter is all right. Mary wasn't really hurt, you know, as I explained.
Except that she would lose her home and her income.
She has a home with us for life.
Oh, yes, it's very generous of you. A room in her own house in return for working as a servant.
Hardly as a servant, doing something very worthwhile, and it isn't necessary for her to work if she feels that she can't.
This would be your what, 44th Moon home, would it?
Yes.
Why Moon, by the way? Was it necessary to call them after yourself?
Yes.
Not even clergymen are not above a little vanity, is that it?
No, it's not that at all. It's simply that my name was useful in raising money. It helped with publicity. The butcher gives us credit. And we have an awful lot of mouths to feed.
How did you come by all the other homes?
Well, people gave them to us, or we were left them in wills, or we bought them with cash that we had raised.
Did anybody before ever give you their last penny?
No, I don't think so.
You're a Christian, are you, Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Do you believe that rocks and buildings are alive?
No.
Do you think plants and trees are conscious and talk to you?
No.
Do you think any normal man could believe this, Mr. Moon?
No.
You see, we've heard that Mr. Venables believes such things.
You're playing tricks with words, scoring points. As I've said, there are no words for this. And to approach it with mockery is silly, because you'll never then understand.
Mr. Moon, this is a court of law, and you can't expect a jury of sane, reasonable men and women to suspend all common sense just because you say so.
I don't think I'm saying that.
You seem to be saying that there are two kinds of Christians. The kind we're all familiar with, the normal, comprehensible sort who can do ordinary human things, like you, perhaps. But then you're saying that there's another kind, mysterious, incomprehensible, who can't be judged by other men, not normal. In fact, so abnormal that qualified doctors and psychiatrists would call them mad.
These are more words.
How else can we communicate, Mr. Moon?
There are many other ways.
What are they, Mr. Moon?
I'm sorry. I've tried to tell you the truth, to make you understand. It's not a simple black and white 2 and 2 make 4 truth. You have to try in order to understand. Ask me the truth about Christ, and I can't prove that he was the Son of God by your kind of logic.
Mr. Moon, you can't seriously suggest that as a parallel. Mr. Moon, the world is full of normal people with religious convictions, but you are asking us to accept that there's another sort, a special kind of person who's above the law. who can't be expected to exercise common prudence or act with ordinary human decency or even to care for his wife and family.
I can only say, ask Eric Venables. He may be able to make you see.
You're all such clever men. I'm not. I'm rather a fool.
Well, shall we let the jury be the judges of that, Mr. Venables?
Oh, I don't think I can say anything that would be useful to them.
My lord, the witness is expressing an unease, which I think we probably all of us feel.
Oh?
Well, he is indirectly plaintiff in this case, through the official solicitor, and yet my learned friend has called him as a witness for the defendant.
Oh, Mr. Lotterby, I don't think you should speak for us all. I'm sure the jury fully understand by now the issues in this case. Mr. Venables wants to give away all his property. But is he of sound mind or not? How better can the jury be helped to decide these difficult matters than by hearing Mr. Venables himself?
Very well, my lord. Thank you, my lord. Mr. Venables, would you first describe for us your feelings, your mental state at the time when you were initially detained in the Haslip Sanatorium?
No.
Well, would you try, please?
Well, now it's for the jury to decide.
You can help them in that.
I doubt it, you know. What's my testimony worth? Of course, I think I'm sane, but then I would, according to the experts. We're all caught up in the same paradox. I'm neither mad nor sane until the court decides which.
Well, when you first gave away your money, were you committed?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And since you gave away your property, have you been committed again?
No, not yet.
Then even the experts have had second thoughts.
What experts? Well, it's all opinion.
Mr. Venables, why do you want to give away your house and property?
I've no need of it. If you own things, you're responsible for them and you're afraid of losing them. I can't live my life in fear. What's more, once everything's gone, who'll want to lock me away again? Once I'm ordinary, poor, I'll be safe from it.
Your wife, Mr. Venables...
Yes, poor Mary, she's not greedy and grasping as you made her out. The law tells many lies, doesn't it?
Oh, dear me, I do hope not, Mr. Venables. At all events, you are on oath to tell us the truth?
The whole truth?
Yes.
Very well, I'll try again. I made Mary an offer which she refused because she thinks I'm mad. I make it again here now, and it's legally binding. Charlie Moon agrees. If Mr. Moon wins here, we'll tear up the contract. All this is fusses about, and I'll write another.
Yes, Mr. Venables.
The whole truth.
Yeah.
I'll write another contract putting all my property in my wife's name, so it's all hers, on condition that she lets it be run as an old people's home by Mr. Moon. She refused this once before because she said, well, what happens if you get better and want it back and can't have it? Well, whatever I am, I'll stay like this now. I've made the offer again, and it's binding, so surely that's the end of the case.
No, Mr. Venables, it's not as simple as that. At the moment, you haven't got anything to give your wife. You have contracted to sell your property to Mr. Moon, and it will become his property, unless the jury declare the contract voidable on the grounds that you were suffering from a mental disorder at the material time. Of course, the case has got to go on, yes?
My lord. Mr. Venables?
I'm sure I'm sane.
Sure that what's happened to you is a religious experience and not a delusion?
I can't talk about what's happened to me. Yes, I'm sure, but then I may be wrong. Just because I'm certain doesn't make me right.
Will you tell us about your faith?
I can't. If I seem unhelpful, it's not that I won't help, I just don't think I can. I know it matters to you, but I just can't see how I can tell you the truth.
Well, just answer my questions as best you can.
But you'd have to know which questions to ask me, wouldn't you?
The question...
You'd have to know most of the answers already to ask me the right question.
Well, the question is your mental health.
Mad or sane?
To put it at its strongest, yes.
No, that's not the question either.
Oh, Mr. Venables, tell me what to ask you and I will.
My lord, we really haven't got all day to waste while my learned friend is cross-examined by his witness.
Try to help the court, Mr. Venables.
Mad or sane? Well, the experts don't agree, so how can you decide? I don't know myself. The point, perhaps, is whether there isn't something beyond mere madness and sanity. Is what happened to me madness? Is a mystical experience sane? And does it really matter anyway? I don't know.
Well, can we agree that you have had what you call a religious awakening?
Ah, that's a pretty phrase.
Oh, Mr. Venables, I am...
In pretty words, then. I don't know how or why, but the doors of positive and negative, of heaven and hell were opened, and they never quite closed again. I've been through what John of the Cross called the dark night of the soul. I've seen the vision beautiful, and I've been in ecstasy. I feel reborn, spirit and flesh. Can you hear how grotesque those words sound in a place like this? I might as well try and describe a starling's wing or what it's like to be in love.
Well, we can talk about how your experience makes you act, what it does in the real world, what was said and what was done. Your wife, for example, said that your...
My symptoms, yes, I listened to her. What she told you, that I talk to trees and I see life in everything, is both true and untrue. When I thought she might understand, I tried to explain it to her. I've tried to explain it again since, and they locked me away. Not oddly that it mattered very much.
Well, will you try and explain again for us?
These things aren't true, of course, in your ordinary world. Not in your real world, that is. I mean, a stone is inanimate. But in a truer, deeper sense, there is life in everything. Have you never had that moment when something you've seen a million times almost stops seeing? Your wife's face, perhaps. When suddenly your wife's face stops being ordinary and everyday, and suddenly, click in your head, you really see it. Really. The shape, the feel, the lines, those little lines, the texture, the tone, the shine, the uniqueness. And suddenly it's magically and superbly wonderful. You want to shout out for the sheer joy and wonder of it. You know, you can rarely see like that. Well, is that sanity? I don't know. But if it's not, I don't want to go back to your ordinary world. Lock me up or whatever. I don't think I can go back.
Mr. Venables, thank you. All of which may make you a poet, or perhaps a mystic, but tells a court of law very little about your mental health, does it? Mr. Venables, perhaps you believe that you have found something beyond logic, beyond our real world, but was it necessary to leave your wife and your son homeless and penniless? Mr. Venables? Would you answer, please? My lord.
You must answer, learned counsel, Mr. Venables.
No, my lord, I don't believe I must.
Oh, yes, I direct you to answer.
I shall not answer him.
Will you tell me why?
I have nothing more to say, and there's no point in destructive questions.
Counsel has the right to cross-examine you.
That may be so, my lord, but this is not a game to me, and the game of law that he's playing is that he's my enemy.
I direct you to answer counsel. Answer, please.
I shan't answer him.
You realize that I have powers to commit you to prison if I should think necessary?
Yes?
I should be reluctant.
With respect, you'd find it impossible.
Oh, don't provoke me, Mr. Venables.
I don't mean to, my lord, but this case is to find out whether I'm mad or not. I've got nothing else to say. If I'm mad, you can't jail me, and if they decide I'm not, well, that's the end of it all anyway.
Yes, the jury may draw adverse inferences from your refusal to answer. They may think that you have something to hide. Do you understand me?
We all understand you.
Oh, well, that's something, I suppose. Well, Mr. Lotterby, I think in the circumstances you will have to forego your right to cross-examination. I shall, of course, make reference to this in my summing up.
Yes, I see. Very well, my lord. I'm obliged.
To succeed in this case, then, members of the jury, counsel for the plaintiff must satisfy you on the balance of probabilities that Mr. Venables was, the time he entered into that contract, incapable of understanding its nature because he was suffering from mental disorder. Otherwise, an act performed during a lucid interval is legally binding. You must also be satisfied that Mr. Venables' mental disorder was known or should have been known to Mr. Moon. Now, here you have heard that although he disputes the doctor's diagnoses of manic depressive psychosis, Mr. Moon admits that he knew about those diagnoses. For the defendant Moon, counsel has argued and argued ably. A very difficult proposition. It is maintained. So far from being psychotic, Mr. Venables had experienced a rare kind of religious, possibly mystical condition. Now, on this subject, you have heard the Reverend Moon and Mr. Venables himself, but here you must remember, Mr. Venables refused to be cross-examined by learned counsel for the plaintiff. Well, you've heard the medical evidence. Two equally qualified doctors totally disagree. So it is part of your duty, having weighed those testimonies, to decide which one you accept. Now, of course, a sane man may dispose his property as he wishes. So it is your duty to decide whether or not Mr. Venables was sane when he entered into that contract to sell his property to Mr. Moon for 5 new pence. Bearing in mind what I have said and having heard all the testimony, if you decide that he was sane, then you must find for the defendant Moon, and the contract must stand. But if, on the other hand, counsel for the plaintiff has satisfied you that Mr. Venables was of unsound mind when he entered into that contract, that he had no understanding of its nature or consequences, and that Mr. Moon knew this, then you must find for the plaintiff, and I shall set aside the contract. Will you now please retire and consider your verdict?
Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Please answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find for the plaintiff, the official solicitor, or for the defendant, the Reverend Charles Moon?
For the plaintiff, the official solicitor.
Since judgment was given to the plaintiff, the official solicitor, costs were given against the Reverend Moon. You can join another jury when our cameras return to bring you a leading case in the Crown Court.